Welcome to Zero Knowledge. I'm your host, Anna Rose. In this podcast, we will be exploring the latest in zero-knowledge research and the decentralized web, as well as new paradigms that promise to change the way we interact and transact online. This week, I chat with Theo and Mike from ZKPassport and Obsidion. We cover how Theo cut his teeth on ZK tech at our very own ZK Hack Hackathon series. We cover Mike's journey from early Bitcoin days to MakerDAO to be working on ZKPassport, a ZK ID system, how the two of them joined forces, their long-standing work with and on the Noir zkDSL, what differentiates ZKPassport from other ZK ID projects, their goals with the Obsidion project, and more. Now, before we kick off, I just want to make sure you're following our release of the ZK Whiteboard Sessions Season 3. These videos, produced by ZK Hack and supported by Bain Capital Crypto, feature our hosts Nico and Guillermo exploring the building blocks of the ZK systems we know and love. We are currently releasing one module every 2 weeks. These can be found over on the Zero Knowledge Podcast YouTube channel. Subscribe there to be reminded, and we'll be adding the link to the show notes. Now, here is my interview with Theo and Mike from ZKPassport. Today, I'm here with Theo and Mike from ZKPassport and Obsidion. Welcome to the show, Theo and Mike.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having us, Anna.
Yeah, thanks, Anna. A long-time listener, so I'm really excited about the episode.
Oh, nice. Okay, so this episode, we're going to be talking about ZKPassport, which I feel is in the category of ZK ID. We've actually been doing this ongoing series with a number of different projects focused on this. We'll add links to these in the show notes, and I know we're going to be mentioning them throughout. You also have been building Obsidion. For me, this is something I want to kind of dig into and understand a little better what it is. But before we do this, I actually want to spend a bit of time talking about ZK Hack and the ZK Hack Hackathon specifically, because Theo, you're like the champion of ZK Hack Hackathons. You've won prizes at least in 4 out of the 5 hackathons, and that 5th one you were a judge. So you weren't allowed, you weren't eligible. Basically, you've just like kind of been cleaning up. So I want to talk a little bit about that story, ZK Hack, how you've been involved. And then Mike, I also remember meeting you at ZK Krakow, and I think the two of you actually worked on a project together. So I feel like the story of ZKPassport is a little bit intertwined with that ZK Hack story. And also, I feel like I've seen ZKPassport evolve over the last 2 years. So I'm excited to have you on to share more. But yeah, Theo, let's start with your story. Kind of what were you working on before? How did you get involved in ZK? I know you from ZK Hack Lisbon, where I was the judge at the time when you're presenting your project, which ended up winning Hacker's Choice in that first hackathon. So yeah, tell me a little bit about what got you started, what you were working on.
So ZK Hack Lisbon was like actually the first time I interacted with ZK like on practical base, where I truly did my first circuit. Before that, I started to learn a bit about it, research a bit, probably like 4 or 5 months prior. But ZK Hack was truly when I got into it. So originally, I got into Web3 before I got into ZK, so late 2021, did a bunch of smart contracts, was into NFT for some time. I actually didn't buy any. I was just like writing smart contracts for NFTs.
Oh, maybe that was a good thing. Yeah.
Yeah, I wasn't too much into those art style and whatever, so it's just like writing it, that's it. After some point, I wanted to find something with a bit more meaning, something more interested. I stumbled upon ZK. First, it was more like about like scalability because that's what people were focused on at the time. I was actually more interested in the privacy aspect. So I digged into it and slightly starting to get more and more knowledge on the matter. But I kind of in the background as I had free time. And eventually I went to ETH Porto. So like that was, I think, 2023, March or February. I don't remember the date exactly. And I met at a side event a random guy that told me about ZK Hack and had never heard about it before.
Cool.
I was like, oh, that actually sounds interesting. And the next day I went on the website and signed up. Went back to Lisbon and I went to ZK Hack Lisbon. So that was an interesting experience. This is very interesting because just because of that one guy, I learned about it. And if I didn't meet him, things would have probably gone very differently for me.
Maybe you wouldn't have been in ZK as soon. It sounds like you were kind of headed towards ZK anyways.
Yeah, it's just a matter of timing.
Okay. Yeah, and that first event was I think it was end of March 2023. So that's ZK Hack Lisbon, our first hackathon that we did, which was, very exciting. Great memory of that. And you guys, you won a prize.
Yeah, I won a prize with Gaylord, who works at ZK for some time and now moved to Maiden. So he had this nice idea of Fruity Friends.
Yeah.
Which was like a cool project to hack on for the first time. Good story.
What was it again? It was like set matching or something. It was like using ZK to like match up people who liked the same fruit.
Yes.
I think was what it was about or something, right?
It started from a desire to kind of like match with people while like sharing your deepest kind of like shameful interest. So we wanted to like wrap it in some nice way that wouldn't be so like explicit. So fruits was definitely like the way to go.
I feel like that's a theme of your projects. It's like dark intention wrapped in like colorful cartoon.
Yes.
We'll get to that. Yeah. You actually won at ZK Hack Lisbon Hacker's Choice. Gaylord, who we just actually recently had on the show too, is now at Maiden, but he ended up joining the ZK Hack team. But you went on to do all sorts of other hackathons.
I did the ZK Hack Istanbul.
Yeah.
At the time, Gaylord already joined ZK Hack. So he was one of the judges. Well, he was not part of my judging team, but he was one of the judges at the time. So he could
He's not your judge.
No, he was not my judge. Conflict of interest. So let's not do that.
Good. That's important. Yeah, we made sure.
So he couldn't help me, unfortunately. I was like originally looking for a team, but I couldn't find one. At least I couldn't find one with an idea that I liked that would be doable within the 2 days of the hackathon. So I ended up doing it on my own. And the reasoning was, as some people may know, there's a lot of cats in Istanbul. So I was like, I should do something around cats.
Oh, yeah.
And I also want to try something different. I want to try new technology. So I went on for like O1 Labs technology, like O1JS. I wanted to try it because it felt interesting, like JavaScript for zero knowledge. It felt like an interesting approach. I needed to try it.
Yeah.
I was like, cats, O1JS, what can I do? Voting for your favorite cat.
Cool. You just mentioned O1JS, but what were you using on the ZK Hack Lisbon?
Oh, yes, I forgot to mention. So in ZK Hack Lisbon, I actually used Noir. And this was my very first interaction with the ZK, like a first DSL. So that was the first time. And that was straight with Noir.
Ah. Yeah. This is exciting because later on, I mean, you guys end up working more and more on Noir. So you did Noir on the first one and then Snarky.js on the second one, the like Mina language.
Yeah.
Cool.
I wanted like a bit of a change, try different things.
Nice. Moving on to Krakow, though, I think this is where like Mike, you and Theo worked together on a project. Am I right?
Yes. I did feel like ZK Hack Krakow was like the culmination of it all. It's like really the project that it was very nice narratives, very good idea. And we really pushed it to its funniest embodiment in some sort. So like I think if I remember correctly, I was like, Michael, you kind of came in like last minute. You decided to fly in from London.
Yeah, I was in London at the time. And, I thought, Krakow was just like a few hour flight away. And so, yeah, I decided to do that over the weekend. I think we spoke about it in advance, actually, right? Like we could work on this project, smash it out.
At that time, we were already starting, like both Michael and I, like separate project at the time on Passport. And we had like some tools that we could use already to build like some app that could be shown, like what we ended up building.
Slowly converging these projects at the time. It was a gradual, kind of organic thing.
So I was like, time is ripe now to use it in an actual hackathons and show what we can do. I was doing the hack house, I think, organized by Gaylord right before the hackathon. So I had time to think of some of the ideas and I was like, I should do something around this. I ended up thinking about another idea around airdrops, but then Gaylord kind of pushed me towards more like age verification and then the kind of idea to making good story around it. So what we could do. And then the idea of, I did fruits before. So that was time to go for a vegetable. So here comes
corn.
And here comes the corn. Yes.
Yeah,
age verification,
so
Corn Hub. It was perfect.
Very good. But it's age verification, which is actually like so
super topical, right?
Yeah, or it's so relevant now. That's so cool.
I remember also because the judging is a big part of it. I think the story you can tell. ChatGPT was just coming out at the time, and so we use it to generate a lot of really, really fun looking kind of like edgy,
Quite innocent.
innocent con content. And also recall you had a t-shirt painting session going on. And so I was like, there, I'll be right back. I just want to get some custom merch done. And so I went in there and I painted out the Corn Hub logo. Like it turned out quite nicely. And then so when we presented, they wore this Corn Hub shirt.
Yep.
It was a hit.
Okay, then moving on, Montreal. And then we should get to ZKPassport, by the way. I don't know if we want to spend the entire episode on ZK Hack. So,
Yes.
so Teo, why don't we speed ZK Montreal, ZK Hack Montreal? That was the last time you were a hacker. Oh yeah, I should mention to anyone listening, it's like you didn't always win first place. You won a prize throughout. But you were just like this kind of, you had this really funny arc of just constantly getting into the top 3, which was great.
We got like general prizes all the time. So sometime Hacker Choice, Istanbul was like in the top, I think that was top 5.
True.
Like most ZK Hack actually top 3, but like this one, as I remember, you were having some issue choosing the project, so you kind of made a top 5 instead of top 3.
This was Istanbul?
Yeah, and the others were like...
We kind of cleaned up in Krakow too, right? I think we won like 7 different prizes.
No.
That's got to be a record.
Yeah,
Krakow.
I think, you got all the bounties, right? Yeah.
So we got like the Hacker's Choice, but like then a lot of bounties in Krakow. So that was interesting. So Montreal, ZK Hack Montreal. The hackathon, this time I was like in a bigger team. I was actually with someone that actually currently works at Self now, Remy.
Oh.
So we hacked together and some other people.
Oh, that's cool.
This project was more around like proving your location using Galileo system that signs the metadata. It doesn't actually foolproof your location, but does give you some element of greater guarantee.
And Cohen from the ZKV team was also on your team.
Yes.
I remember you had a great team.
We had Cohen.
Yeah, all stars.
Yeah. So it was a team of 4. We had we were supposed to have like a 5th member, but that was, I think they dropped off before the hackathon finished. And that project, that was interesting. The other interesting element of the hackathon was the blackout. So like we had to move like venues. There was a storm, right? So like the current went off a few times. And so we lost power on the first day of the hackathon and needed to move location. It was the most intense event we've ever thrown as a team. Like moving 150 hackers from like across a city, where, like moving tables, moving banners, moving prize, like all of it, setting up a new stage. And then we did it. Yeah, it was pretty intense, but the team was amazing. And the hackers were so like patient, which was amazing too. Like you guys just came over. Both venues were beautiful. So it was kind of like, I think for anyone who was there, the memory is very vivid. On this project, we had to push through a little bit more. So we went a bit more deep into the night. Usually I always sleep during hackathons. So I always take the night to sleep at least a bit. So I never do like full night without sleep. But we had to go a bit later. And the next day we submitted. And after that, being quite tired, we went through the judging. And after the judging, we kind of went out a bit. So I remember like we went out, we had like a drink. And then while we having the drink, we learning that we actually part the finalist. And I was like, oh, so we need to come back to the venue because we're going to need to present on the main stage after like having 1 beer. So that was an interesting experience, going on the stage, present, and like, again, being like part of the finalist. In summary, so I got 2 finalist prize, Istanbul and Montreal, and I did 2 others were like Hacker Choice in Lisbon and Krakow. Cool. And then, Teo, I know that you were also a judge at ZK Hack Berlin, but I want to hear from Mike a little bit of his backstory and maybe where this idea for ZKPassport starts. Mike, what were you working on before?
Yeah, so I first discovered Bitcoin in like 2011, created this fun little Windows desktop widget using the Mt. Gox API.
Yeah.
Recall posting that to the Bitcoin Talk forums, got into solo mining. With my desktop, I managed to mine a Bitcoin block. That was fun. I think the block reward was like 50 at the time still.
50
so
Bitcoins?
At the time,
Whoa!
yeah. But I think I've like, I probably sold it or I've lost it.
You've not found this?
Well, actually, I got doxed.
Okay.
They went to Mt. Gox.
Oh.
So, yeah. I learned about the importance of self-custody the hard way.
Oh, man.
An important lesson that I don't think I'll soon forget. And then, a few different projects. And then fast forward, I joined the MakerDAO team.
Okay.
Probably because I I cared so much about self-custody because I'd lost so many Bitcoins from Mt. Gox. So as a software architect there, I helped to build out single collateral DAI and then multi-collateral DAI. The ability to self-custody these stablecoins, pretty exciting and cool and very useful for so many use cases. Yeah, that was really, really fun. And my kind of foray into the Ethereum ecosystem at the time.
Did you encounter ZK there? I mean, I vaguely remember there was formal verification happening there, but I don't think there was really a ZK team at MakerDAO, was there?
Not really. It was still pretty nascent at the time. There weren't many products around. But I did start, diving into, I think it was the whiteboard sessions at one point, I remember. But also just other resources online. And then I stumbled across Aztec and ZK Money. Participated in the Aztec's ignition ceremony. That was cool. The trusted setup.
Nice. Yeah, actually, we had them on the show. We did a whole show just about trusted setups, which had that ignition ceremony as well.
I actually learned a lot originally from listening to ZK podcast.
Nice.
And the guests you'd have on the products, and then I'd go and research it afterwards and learn more about it.
Cool.
I went through a deep dive, I recall, for a couple of months where using Python, I just experiment and try to write these primitives for a snark, whatever it might be, to learn from first principles. I wouldn't recommend it. It's pretty full on. It takes a lot of, you have to really get in there and be committed. It is satisfying though to actually see it and how it plays out in the math and the code.
When did you fully jump into ZK though? When did you start to, it sounds like, okay, so you're building some primitives, but at what point did you start to maybe engage with the community or want to start contributing?
So I think I played around with Circom a little bit, but then it was probably mid 2023 that I discovered Noir. And it was very early days. So it was still kind of janky. It's come a long way since then. I really wanted to, to build something cool to make, to see what I could get out of Noir, this DSL, and how far I could push it. And then I, as I was thinking about cool ideas, I learned about e-passports and that they have this NFC chip in it, and that most people actually have this in their passport. And then also most smartphones have a NFC reader. And then, so all the pieces were there, and it was a matter of just connecting them up and, building it out. And that was the first prototype for ZKPassport.
Very cool. What time frame did you build that?
So that was probably late 2023.
So this is before you came to ZK Summit. You already had this prototype.
That's right. Yeah. And then I recall meeting Theo. It's the first time I met Theo was at ZK Summit Athens. And he was building out a similar project, separate from me, called Ocelots. And so I remember, I think we were at the gathering before the summit, people were having dinner and eating. And because I was chatting with Theo before that, I knew what he looked like in the profile picture. Very, very distinct, the hair. And so I saw him sitting across at the table. And it just so happened that you'd put Theo and I on back-to-back, these almost identical workshops, purely by accident.
Oh, yeah. Oops.
So I took the opportunity to, approach Theo and be like, oh, hey, mate, I'm Michael from ZKPassport. I noticed we have pretty much the same workshop back to back. Did you want to maybe coordinate and we can maybe, specialize and differentiate a little bit? And so we did. And so that was great. So we had slightly different workshops.
That's always tricky. I think we sometimes try to group things that seem similar in the program, but yeah.
It doesn't always work to the advantage of the... And coming up next is the exact same workshop.
We do try to give speakers a heads up.
But it was actually fun because that was a reason to chat with Theo and approach him, and then we spoke a bit more about it. And
very cool.
I guess, the friendship kind of blossomed from there, and fast forward to today, and now we're co-founders. So you're a critical part of our origin story.
Wow! So nice. And then you did end up collaborating at ZK Krakow on that project.
Yes, that's right. Corn Hub.
Nice. So it sounds like both of you were sort of early adopters or early kind of participants in the Aztec community. You were both kind of interested in Noir. I don't know, Mike, was the first version of ZKPassport also written in Noir?
Yes, yeah. Noir was super janky at that point. It has come such a long way since then.
Yeah. Nice. Cool. Yeah, let's talk about that. But okay, ZKPassport, I mean, when I first heard the idea, it was the simple idea, similar to Open Passport at the time. There's a bunch of projects that were just realizing this use case for ZK. You could use ZK to prove an identity on chain. You could start bringing the physical passport, the uniqueness of the physical passport on chain. That's what ZKPassport was when you shared it with me at ZK Krakow. It was sort of a little demo. You're like, look, you can scan the passport. It was super cool. But I feel like since then, especially like when I spoke to both of you after ZK Hack Berlin this summer, it sounded like the project had evolved quite a lot. So tell me what has happened. What is ZKPassport today? What do you aim to be?
So ZKPassport is this credibly neutral, so we're not bound to any particular chain, permissionless. So anyone can integrate with this without having to have any existing accounts set up or anything like that. We have the same access to integrate with ZKPassport as anybody else does. This public goods identity infrastructure. So the vision really is to have this ability to verify your identity through using passports, which is government-attested identity or ID cards. And it's kind of this like decentralized approach, if you think about it, with passports and ID cards, because there's no global issuer. Each country, they attest over these credentials of their own citizens, separate from other countries, which is, it's really cool, this federated approach. We think that's the right way it should be done. Because if you think about when you get married or you change your name, who do you go to? You go to the local government, the federal government, to recognize that, and then they'll issue you a birth certificate, update your credentials on your e-passport and whatnot. And so we're really excited about having this be kind of this identity infrastructure for Web3. And there's all these other tools now that we're excited about building out that can plug into that and consume these identity primitives. One of them we're building out is, and this kind of follows on to this dream I have of having the self-custody ability to have electronic peer-to-peer cash, but with privacy baked in, the ability to have the ZKPassport provide this decentralized, permissionless compliance layer that respects the privacy of the user so that you can utilize these private stablecoins, but also not run afoul of governments. Not exchanges aren't going to be wary about using it to, having it come through an off-ramp, which is a UX issue then. And ultimately the dream of Obsidion is to have, I guess, kind of like you can imagine it as like a Revolut with crypto rails as the way that payments are facilitated. And privacy is a critical component of that.
So ZKPassport, everything you've described is really about this like passport. But Obsidion, what is it? Is it a wallet? Is it a platform? How do those two things connect?
I think this all really comes from the original vision of Satoshi and the white paper of having this electronic peer-to-peer cash. But if you think about one of the properties of cash is you also have privacy.
For sure.
And if we want to really make use of stablecoins and use them in the real world, you need to have privacy, even if it's this bank level privacy, because the current approach is obviously not going to, people aren't going to pay their mortgage, buy groceries, all of these kind of things, if everybody can see it on this, transparent ledger. And so we want to realize that. So privacy is like one of the steps, and that's super important. Aztec's building that out, Maiden, Pay, other projects. But then going a step further, you also need to have some kind of best effort compliance. And so Web 2, KYC, this kind of stuff is not compatible with blockchain. So we're building out ZKPassport to also be this Web 3, identity infrastructure that is compatible, allows you to say, have a fully private USDC, and then every time you transfer it around, you could be proving you're not on a sanctions list, proving you're not from a sanctioned country, whatever the requirements may be. And that's going to satisfy regulators. And the idea is that then people can use it and not have to go to these centralized KYC providers and give up their privacy and compromise on that. And then as we've seen throughout the last several years, so many hacks and leaks occur. So that's just inevitable. But if the surface area to begin with is very minimal, just like a ZK proof that proves certain facts about you, even if it gets hacked, there's no issue there.
But in that case, then, like ZKPassport was the first kind of product, but now it almost sounds like Obsidion is the main product and ZKPassport is the KYC mechanism for Obsidion. Is that true? Is that how you're thinking about the project?
ZKPassport is like really is like own thing that we're still like finishing up, but it's getting close to completion right now. So we have new feature coming in. No, actually, it's already out, or it should be out by the time this podcast is going to be airing. It's like this idea of private face match. So you do prove that you are the person on the passport or the ID by doing like a local only face recognition with a liveness check. We use the attestation service from Apple and Google on Android, so iOS, Android, to attest that this was run properly and then that attestation is verified in the verifier on-chain or off-chain, depending on what kind of verification you do. So this is the kind of feature that we need for an actual KYC, because that you need that kind of guarantee and assurance.
This is like the icing on the cake here. So you have all these other checks, but you don't know that the person using the passport to prove their identity is necessarily the person on the passport. And so you still have scammers selling, they have a box of passports, for example. But this private face match that we're launching very soon may already be out by the time this airs.
Yeah,
like Thea said, you can prove that you are the person on the passport without ever revealing your face. And that's just so cool. Like that really taps into the magic of ZK.
And this is all done locally, I guess, on the phone.
Yeah. So we have the full cryptographic guarantee on the passport side, but then you have this mobile TE guarantee, which on an iPhone is super high. Like the bar's really high. Not even like some federal agencies can't even crack it. And then, it's essentially driving this face print all locally. So nothing's ever leaving the phone through a machine learning model, runs all locally on the phone. And then you can compare in zero knowledge this face print that you are the person on the photograph that's signed over by the government.
Got it. It's funny because other projects that we've had on the show, I think Self mentioned this. I've heard of this like biometric or like visual kind of matching. You're using potentially the face feature, but I'm not sure if they've shipped like this. I think this is the first time at least we're hearing about it shipping. But then again, Obsidion, I don't know if you really answered what I was asking, where it's like, what is the larger Obsidion project? Like, you sort of said, okay, so ZKPassport is its own project. You're not abandoning it. It's super important. But like, I think I'm not entirely clear on like what Obsidion is meant to be. Like, is it a wallet? Is it an exchange? What is it?
We use the elements of a wallet to build more like a fintech app, like a bank, but built on crypto rails. So like instead of using TradFi, traditional finance, we use actual privacy preserving blockchain with Aztec. And ZKPassport is going to come in as the primary tool for compliance. So this is why we have the separate product ZKPassport that will plug into it. So we need it to be finalized. And then Obsidion can build on top of that as separate products.
Keeping ZKPassport as incredibly neutral, no profit incentive. It's purely public goods.
Okay.
But we can build out all these for-profit ventures now that plug into this infrastructure and utilize it like anyone else could. And we have a handful, by the way, like a bunch of all these exciting ideas, but we can only obviously do one thing at a time.
Yeah.
So you can imagine like there's like e-signatures, but forget DocuSign or even Google Signatures. You could sign yourself over a PDF. It's like a ZK PDF, but embedding your actual name that your government has attested over. Even your signature it's embedded sometimes in e-passports. Maybe even like secured by a private face match. Like that is such a stronger guarantee than just DocuSign server saying, oh, this is the IP address of the person that signed. We think it's them. They type their name into the prompt and their initials. So that's an exciting, another possible integration.
Cool. It's just funny because you talk about being like this credibly neutral public good, unbound to a network, but you are built on Aztec. So aren't you kind of bound to Ethereum? Like, aren't you kind of tied to at least the Ethereum ecosystem?
Well, the way we've built ZKPassport in that context, so if we take our Obsidion, which is kind of bound more to the Aztec technology, although we could expand later, but like ZKPassport, you could use it fully off-chain. So you don't have to use on-chain if you don't want to. So that probably what Web2 people would probably use ZKPassport for, like a fully off-chain verification with our SDK. That makes it pretty easy to use. Like if you want to do, for example, server-side verification of the proofs. So the RSDK is handling all of that. It's a pretty great level of abstraction, so it's very simple to plug in. It's like a regular NPM package, so an average web developer won't have to worry too much about the complexity of it. They're just like, they're interacting with a passport or national ID. They know it's privacy preserving, and they can query the data they want about it.
It's like .sanctions, .face match. It'll add that to the prompt when the person goes to verify.
Now, we do have the tooling. If you want to verify on-chain, we have the Solidity verifier that allows you to verify the proof on-chain. So if you want to interact with your smart contract, you can verify the proof, and you have like a bunch of helper functions that allows you to verify specific information that you requested in the proof. If you want to verify that someone's over 18, if you want to verify that someone is not from a specific list of country, or is not part of the sanction list, we also have that. Like if you're not part of the OFAC sanction list. And also if you want to verify that someone went through the face match check, you can verify that on-chain as well. Just to finish more on the off-chain and on-chain aspect, the only thing that's always done on-chain, but that's not very, that's not tying up to the ecosystem, but like I guess we use Ethereum as the base, is that we have our registries of the certificates of the country that sign the passports and the national IDs. So we create like a Merkle tree of that. And the root of that Merkle tree, of all the public keys of the certificate, is settled on chain. So we got also a registry of our circuits. So essentially the circuits that can generate the proofs. And I'm going to talk about the subproof and subcircuits idea so that people can understand what those are. But all those circuits that we created, their verification key hash is part of the Merkle tree as well. And that Merkle tree root is also settled on chain. So essentially, what the final proof will be able to verify, like what the verifier can verify, is that that proof was generated with a certificate from a given country without knowing which one. So it's a valid ID issued by one country. So you could like have a proof that only verifies that you have a valid ID without checking which country or revealing which country, and also verifies that was generated with a circuit that's from us. So it's not random circuit.
One cool thing about the certificate registry is that it's also permissionless. So what that means is there are these master lists that are curated by ICAO, the International Civil Aviation Authority. Different governments, they sign over these master lists and they provide them to ICAO. And so anybody can update this certificate registry by providing a valid proof that these certificates were signed by a recognized root key.
So when I had this episode with Self, we were talking about like one of the big challenges of like working with passports from across the world. There's sort of these clusters of countries that are using similar signature algorithms or hashing algorithms, but then you also have different, like you get a bunch of different signature algorithms used by different countries. So it's like it's not consistent in the world. So like, is this something you're also facing? Is this something you're also having to do? Are you able to share resources actually with the Self team? Like, yeah, I'm just curious if this is something you're looking at.
So yes, this is definitely something we had trouble with. So each country is free to choose within a given set of signature algorithm and hashing algorithm. So it could be RSA, which is one of the most common, but actually a bit outdated, to be honest, and zkDSL. So that one is more known, I think, to people in crypto, but they actually don't use the curves, the elliptic curves that people are used to in crypto, because this is kind of like they don't care about the same things. And the hashing algorithm can be multiple kind of like hashing algorithm. It could be a SHA-256, which is quite common, or it could be a less common like SHA-512, which is a bit more demanding in the circuit, or even SHA-1, which is technically not secure anymore, but in that context, it should be somewhat fine.
And not just one per passport. There's like different places they use about the passport data.
Oh,
and so
really?
some countries will use it in 3 different places, 3 different algorithms.
Oh,
so it gets
damn.
wild, yeah.
The hash algorithm can be used at different stages. And at those different stages, sometimes they use different hash algorithm, making the whole thing even harder to deal with. Because within the circuit, you have to have like a deterministic thing. So you can't like just do like dynamic stuff like in a regular program. So you need to know in advance what you're going to need to use. So that creates a lot of different combinations. Now, the nice thing about Noir is that we've been able to streamline all this. And so we have like some kind of like circuit generator that essentially generates all the possible combinations. And so we don't have to worry too much about it. Yeah, so far we got about 600 circuits, yeah. So this idea of subcircuits, which we can go into like just a bit after, but we had to create a lot of different circuits for all those different combinations. But to get there, we had to support all the hash algorithm and the signature algorithm. So we had to support the RSA with the different combinations and zkDSL with the different curves and the hash algorithm. So you even have variation with the type of RSA as well, PKCS and PSS. So
then there's this exotic brain pool I hadn't heard about until I discovered it.
So that's like a kind of like curve used, like a curve family, which is used a lot in European countries, Germany being like the main one that uses it, but like other countries in Europe do use it. Like even for the one that like the least common, you need to add support for it. Like something that's used by only one country, you still need to add it.
You still have to do it. But I'm just curious, like, so you're going through country by country, but you have another team that's doing it too. Do you guys share resources?
We publicly share essentially all the signature algorithm we support. So you can go on our website. We have like a list where you can search and you can search the country and you will see what hashing algorithm it uses. and what signature algorithm it uses. You will see the public key that's used. So all this information, we make it public so everyone can verify it.
That's registry.zkPassport.id.
Yeah. So I guess when it comes to sharing between teams, we indirectly share a lot because we're using the same sources for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
So for example, what Michael mentioned before, which is the iCal master list. So this is containing most of the certificate we use, but we do have to get it from other master lists from countries, for example, that provide their own, like Germany, the Netherlands, France, Italy, and others.
In terms of collaborating with the circuits, we imagine that like Self, even World is exploring, they're using our circuits.
Yeah.
Because they're using Circom, you need this trusted setup for each circuit. So 300 megabytes roughly, right? For the Z key times 600 different circuits.
Oh my God.
That's probably why they're using TE, a lot of this, because it gets very difficult and cumbersome.
Yeah. Are you using TEs or no?
Only for the private face match.
Okay.
Not at that level. Everything else is cryptographically secured. Then these nice little augmented features like location, location check that does a GPS check, and then just a mobile TE or the private face match.
Where we're not using like TEs in the same sense that they are. So like we're not using TEs on the server. So we don't have to transmit the data out at the device at any point. We do full native proving on the mobile.
Mm-hmm.
And for the TE that Michael mentioned, this is using the TE guarantees of the phone. So with the cryptographic keys and the cryptographic algorithm you have inside the secure element or secure enclave of the phone. So we fully committed to client-side operations, essentially.
Yeah. In fact, we built out a lot of the tooling that we're using.
Yeah.
It's built on top of Aztec's, Barrett prover.
That was also quite a lot of work, like the mobile proving tooling. Because when we first started the circuits, we had like the whole circuits in Noir. Great. Now, how do we do this on the mobile phone?
Yeah, it's very different.
Because when we started at the time, mobile proving was not much a priority in the industry, as far as I remember. So I was like, we had to push for it. Now it's like much more like trendy to do mobile proving. Like you have a lot of like new proving systems that comes up very regularly. Even ZK VMs now on mobile as well.
Mm-hmm.
And we had to create the whole thing. So we had like to take on Bratenberg, the backend used by Aztec to generate the proofs, and I tweak it to work on mobile and build the whole thing to make it work with Swift and Kotlin on iOS and Android. Now the whole thing works pretty seamlessly.
We call it Soir. It's Swift and Noir.
Oh.
Yeah. And then we call the backend prover that plugs in Swarenberg, based on Bratenberg.
Okay, very good. I want to talk a little bit about the Noir evolution because you've hinted at it. You sort of talked about this early version of Noir that was very hard to use. You've been part of this community. What stage would you say it's at today?
So Noir has changed a lot. So the first time I used it, which was ZK Lisbon, I think that was version 0.10. At the time, that was a very lean language. There were not many features. It was already Rust looking, but like not as full features as it is today. Today, it's like much closer to production. There's many more libraries available. There's a big chunk of the libraries that we contributed to, actually, especially the RSA library, the zkDSL one. We have a date library that we use for the age comparison and stuff like this. But like others also have contributed. So in the Noir ecosystem, you have like a lot of tools you would need to do like most circuits without having to do the whole thing yourself. And
cool.
The language is about to get audited. So that's definitely going to reach full production state fairly soon.
At this point, it's really like just using Rust. It's so similar.
Yeah, there's a lot of similarities.
Cool. How big is the Noir community from where you're sitting? You're not working at Aztec, so maybe they have better numbers here, but I'm just curious, like, given that you're pretty deep in this ecosystem, what does it seem like to you?
I'm trying to gauge because there's the Noir community and then there's the Aztec community, and those are two different things. I would have a hard time putting a number on it. It's definitely growing, and people are like more dropping Circom and Halo 2 to move to Noir. For example, Pay, which Michael mentioned before, they moved to Noir recently. They were using Halo 2 for their circuits.
Mm-hmm.
So there's definitely a trend. Everyone is converging onto Noir.
Oh, that's nice. I still want to understand a little bit the relationship to the Aztec community and what you expect to be within Aztec. Like, you're built on their system. Would you be like the application that when people kind of like want to use Aztec, they'd go to use Obsidion? Or do you see Obsidion as being like a product on its own that you're just sort of going out on like to the market with?
We feel like Aztec is the most mature in terms of what they built out with, this blockchain that allows private state and programmability is such an undertaking engineering wise. There's Maiden and there's others that are working in this, but it's such a challenge that that's why we're building it on Aztec. But high level, the vision of the product really is private stablecoins with compliance.
Okay.
So Obsidian may kind of split into different things. So you have the wallet, like the pure wallet that needs to be used by people in the ecosystem that are more hardcore users. But the end goal is definitely to have a product that's targeting average people, kind of not for power users. So that version would be more focused on simple financial related stuff that you can build on top of Aztec. And the nice thing about Aztec is that it's been built with the desire of providing full privacy if you need it. But thanks to this hybrid model with public state, and now as well with the collaboration they did with SEO, the private share state, you can have all you need to do whatever level of privacy you want, depending on your use case. So the base layer is can give you full privacy, and it's up to you as an application developer to choose what level you want to provide to users.
One important thing worth noting is if you start out at the foundation with privacy, you can always reduce the privacy going as you progress, but you need to start from the base layer of full privacy. You can't start the other way around because you've already given up privacy.
Yeah, but do you see Obsidian then as something that you expect developers to build on top of as well? I'm just trying to figure out if this is a go-to-market end product that you download this thing, or if it's a tool.
The way I see it, so for the wallet, dApps could definitely interact with it. So that's the kind of the point. But the end product, so when I say wallet versus end product, right now we have the web app that people can use, the wallet on testnet. So this is what I consider the full wallet for hardcore users, power users. And the end product will be more like a mobile app, so mobile focus. So essentially simplified UX and UI, simple to use, Revolut filling.
Yeah, so like an app.
Like an app. And the integration into the app from the dApps is probably going to be a bit more controlled. So the UX feel more natural. So in terms of customization, it might be a bit less than the web app. So you will have the two options. If you want to have more natural, simple product, you use the mobile app. And if you want to have a more complete wallet, you would use the web app. So this is how I see it. That may still need refinement as we develop the strategy, but this is how I see the dichotomy here.
How do you see the competitive space for this type of product? Because just on this show, we've had Self and Rarimo and Billions Network and, we're going to have Pay and, that kind of thing. So it's there's a lot of products right now coming out that are trying to tackle ID. Some are working directly with governments. Some are going more to the end user. Yeah, you're in that space. What is that competitive space like? What makes you guys, different?
So on the ZKPassport side, it's all about being, credibly neutral, public goods identity infrastructure, like I said before. And so there's, we're not really trying to compete too much, and there's definitely no profit incentive on that side. So we want it to be as open as possible.
So we have a certain desire to complete as engineers ourselves, and what we would like to see as an API to consume to do a verification. So we want something simple to use, something that feels plug and play, something that credibly neutral so you can use it for free if you want. We do provide some nice added product that you could pay for, but you could always set up your infrastructure built on top of ours and use it as you want. And the other thing is that we want to refine the UX. So from the user perspective, we want it to be easy to use. And this is a very complex thing to make people understand because this is not natural. It doesn't feel natural to scan your passport, to scan your national ID. And while it may feel natural to us, you have to think about the average users. They're going to be told, oh, you need to do verification with your passport and national ID. Now scan the chip. Most people actually don't know there's a chip in it. So they're like, well, am I supposed to take a picture of it? Am I supposed to scan with my camera? Now, from our perspective, this sounds like maybe a little bit ludicrous, but they never heard about it. So they don't know. So you need to refine the UX. You need to guide them. So there's a lot of work in making that good enough so that most people don't run into those issues. So we really want to build something both from the developer experience perspective and the user experience perspective that's nicely thought, nicely put well together, and even the code base as well. We want it to be well structured. So this is where this idea of subproofs and subcircuits kind of fill it pretty great because it's very modular. It's very easy for us to add new circuits like we did with face match to add new features.
So we didn't have a chance to chat about the subcircuits, which is what allows us to actually do the mobile client-side proving.
Yeah, so the subcircuits is an interesting way we found to structure our circuits because of the constraint of mobile proving. So on mobile, you have like limited amount of RAM. So you can't do massive circuits, at least with most proving systems. Some have like found solution to that, but they came after. So we splitted the circuit in different chunks that do specific parts of the verification logic. And so we have like, let's say 4 core subcircuits in the process. So the first one is the verification of the signature from the issuing government over the intermediary certificate. The second one is that intermediary certificate which signs over the passport data. We verify this in the second subcircuit. The third one verifies that the data of the passport that was signed indeed is correct. So essentially the data we use in the other circuits for revealing data is the data that was hashed down to the message that was signed by the state. And the final one is what we call the disclosure circuit. So whatever information you want to disclose, that could be your name, that could be your age, or that could be a face match. All those are like a disclosure proofs. And all this like fits together and we combine it into a final proof, which is we call an outer proof, which essentially is a circuit that's recursively verify all the subproofs into one that can then be verified on-chain or off-chain.
Mm-hmm.
The nice part about this design is we can cache those first 3 proofs and then you pivot off that last proof. So it's like there's a second, basically to prove the disclosure circuit.
From a UX perspective, when the user uses the app, it's actually quite fast because when you scan your passport, your ID card, that's when we generate those 3 first proofs, which we call the base proofs. And so those are cached and you don't even realize it's actually generating in the background. So by the time you actually do a verification, you're only going to generate the disclosure proofs. So it's like just a few seconds because those are much smaller.
Is this different from the way that some of those other projects are built?
So other projects, they built a bit different. The Rarimo and Self, they use Circom. And as far as I understand, they don't use this kind of like logic we have, where especially with the commitment we have between each proof and this idea of like parameter commitment, that allows us to have like a universal interface for all our disclosure proofs. So essentially, we came up with that because it means we don't have to worry about the kind of logic we need to do for the disclosure proofs.
The public API is the same for each circuit.
It's always the same because essentially, whatever private input we put into the circuit, we can always arrange it into the same interface with public input because they are all committed into that parameter commitment.
So it's just hashed over and then you can break it apart outside the actual circuit proof verification.
So the verifier is actually the one that's going to get those parameter commitment, get the committed input and recompute then to make sure that they're correct. And so that happens both with the off-chain verifier and the on-chain one on EVMs.
Got it. Are you also, though, looking at other kinds of kind of proof of identification beyond Passport for ZKPassport? Or are you just focused on passports still?
So we support passport, national IDs, and residence permits, which follow this kind of same standard. So in the EU, it was quite easy to support national IDs and residence permits because they use the same standard and they have they have a mandate. So they mandated all EU members to issue national IDs that are following this standard since 2021. So now most Europeans would actually have an ID that's compatible with it because while you may not have a passport because you only need one if you want to travel outside the Schengen area, if you're European, for example. A lot of the national IDs are actually compulsory. So they will have to have one.
Which is great because then you get like a near 99% saturation in that country.
But not all of them are already electronic because the old ones may not be, but the new ones are.
Okay.
For now, we kind of want to focus on this specific standards, refine the UX. So like do one thing and do one thing properly, correctly, rather than expanding and like spread out in things and do it averagely good. And once we have tackled this properly, we can add others. So that could include maybe Aadhaar, like from India, or that could include as well the driving licenses. But the issue with the driving licenses is the standard is quite different. it might not have the same assumptions in terms of privacy because you kind of have to go through the third party.
It's a JWT, similar to like the ZK login approach, I guess you could say.
I think this is what Google Wallet also they've been tackling the licenses of the US. That we had an episode with them talking about that. And they use ZK in a very specific way as well. But yeah, it did sound like it was more bespoke for that particular card, that kind of ID.
Yeah, the nice thing is that they are not, because they essentially it's an interactive process and they only have to use the signature from the secure element. The secure element is using one specific signature algorithm. It's like a P256, which they can highly optimize for. And so it's like pretty fast.
They didn't need 600 circuits for it to work. They could just do one circuit really well.
Well, in our case, we have to optimize for a lot of different signature algorithms. So it's like we can't tweak it as much.
Is ZKPassport out in the wild? Like, have people already interacted with it? Or do you have plans to have them do that?
So yeah, we integrated with DevCon, Southeast Asia, last year to provide discounts to anyone from Southeast Asia. And so you could prove that you're from that country. Really cool integration. We had thousands of people come through and get their ticket using that.
Cool.
And then we've also integrated with DevConnect this year. Same approach, but it's for if you're from Latin America. And then another integration we have is with Aztec testnet. So for sequences to provide like SIBR resistance and preventing botting. As part of that, you prove that you're not on a sanctions list as well, and you have the SIBR resistance property to essentially prove that there's an actual person behind the validator and not 1,000 different people that have signed up just for airdrop farming.
Yeah, this integration in particular with Aztec has been very beneficial to us because we had a lot of people going through it, like over 20,000 people or even 30,000 if I remember correctly.
So like you stress test it.
Yeah.
Edge cases galore.
Yes.
We fixed so many bugs. It was a month of just like full-on bug fixing.
Good.
Super helpful. So yeah, thanks a lot to Aztec for that. It was great. Really helped to polish the product.
Nice. So thank you so much for sharing this story of, well, I guess first ZK hack and your entry point into ZK. Mike, your story of like being involved in like blockchain stuff for a long time and then finding ZK, the story of ZKPassport itself, the introduction of Obsidion, some of the relationships between them, and yeah, some of the features that you guys are working on. Thanks so much.
Yeah, thank you, Anna.
Yeah, thanks, Anna. This has been really fun.
Cool. I want to say thank you to the podcast team, Rachel, Henrik, Tanya, and Hector. And to our listeners, thanks for listening.